The subway station smelled like rain, rust, and burnt coffee. Nia Jackson hurried down the cracked concrete stairs, pulling her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders as cold wind rushed through the underground tunnels. It had been one of the longest days of her life. First her morning college classes, then 8 straight hours at the diner downtown because another waitress had called in sick. Her entire body ached. She checked the time on her phone, 11:43 p.m. Perfect, she muttered tiredly. Last train crowd. As she reached the platform, dozens of exhausted commuters stood waiting beneath flickering fluorescent lights. Some looked half asleep. Others argued quietly into their phones. Somewhere farther down the platform, a homeless musician played a slow tune on a saxophone that echoed sadly through the station. The train finally screeched into view. Doors opened. People shoved inside immediately. Nia squeezed through the crowd carefully, almost losing her balance when someone bumped her shoulder. She spotted a single empty seat near the middle of the subway car and quickly sat down before someone else could take it. The relief was instant. "Oh, thank God," she whispered, stretching her sore legs slightly. Across from her sat a woman carrying grocery bags. A teenage couple shared headphones beside the window. Near the door, a construction worker slept sitting upright, his yellow helmet resting on his lap. Nobody spoke. The train roared forward into the darkness. Nia leaned her head back and closed her eyes for a moment, trying not to think about the bills waiting at home. Rent was already late. Her younger brother Malik needed new school shoes. And her mother's medical prescriptions kept getting more expensive every month. Sometimes it felt like life never stopped demanding things from her. The subway stopped again at Lexington Avenue. More passengers entered. That's when she noticed the old man. He stepped inside slowly, wearing a long gray coat soaked from the heavy rain outside. Water dripped from the edge of his hat. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the metal pole near the door. At first, nobody paid attention. But then the train jerked violently forward. The old man stumbled hard. A woman nearby gasped quietly as he almost collapsed into the aisle. He caught himself at the last second, breathing heavily. Still, nobody moved. Most passengers avoided eye contact completely, pretending not to notice. Nia stared at him. Something about him reminded her of her grandfather, the tired eyes, the quiet dignity, the way older people sometimes tried to hide pain so others wouldn't worry. She hesitated for only 1 second. Then she stood up. "Sir," she said loudly enough for him to hear over the train noise, "you can sit here." The old man looked surprised. "Oh no, dear, I couldn't take your seat." "It's okay," Nia replied with a small smile. "Really? You've had a long day too." She laughed softly. "You can tell. The eyes never lie," he said gently. A few nearby passengers finally looked up from their phones, watching the interaction silently. Nia stepped aside and helped steady him as he carefully lowered himself into the seat. The relief on his face was immediate. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Then the old man glanced at her name tag still clipped to her diner uniform. "Nia Jackson," he read aloud. "That's a beautiful name. Thank you. You work very hard, don't you?" She shrugged. "Somebody has to." The old man studied her thoughtfully. "And yet you still choose kindness." Nia leaned against the subway pole beside him. "My grandma used to say kindness costs nothing. Your grandmother was wise." The train rattled through another tunnel. Outside the dark windows, blurred city lights flashed like distant stars. Finally, the old man reached slowly into his coat pocket and pulled out a small silver subway token, old-fashioned and scratched with age. He placed it gently into her hand. Nia frowned. "What's this?" "A reminder," he said quietly. "Of what?" "That the world notices good people, even when they think nobody sees them." Before she could respond, the train slowed toward her station. "This is me," she said. The old man nodded slowly. "Take care of yourself, Miss Jackson." Nia stepped backward toward the opening doors, still holding the strange silver token tightly in her palm. But just before the doors closed, the old man called out one final sentence. "Tomorrow morning," he said calmly, "don't ignore the knock at your door." The doors slammed shut, and the train disappeared into the darkness. The knock came at exactly 8:12 the next morning. Nia almost ignored it. She had slept barely 4 hours after getting home from the subway, and her tiny apartment still felt wrapped in darkness despite the morning sunlight leaking through the blinds. Malik was eating cereal at the kitchen counter while cartoons played softly from the old television. Another knock echoed through the apartment. More firm this time. "Nia," her younger brother said cautiously, spoon halfway to his mouth, "you expecting somebody?" "No," she muttered. Her first thought was the landlord. Her second thought was bills. Neither sounded good. She slipped on her hoodie and walked carefully toward the door. Their apartment building wasn't exactly safe. The locks barely worked, strangers argued in the hallway at night, and police sirens were almost part of the neighborhood soundtrack. The knocking came again. Nia frowned and peeked through the peephole. 3 men stood outside, all wearing black suits, perfectly pressed. One held a leather folder. Another stood with his hands folded calmly in front of him. The third, a tall bald man with an earpiece, looked more like security than business. Nia's stomach tightened immediately. What in the world? Malik appeared behind her. "Who is it?" "I don't know." The tallest man spoke through the door in a calm professional voice. "Miss Nia Jackson." Nia hesitated before answering. "Who's asking?" "My name is Daniel Reeves. We'd like to speak with you for a few moments, if possible." That somehow sounded even more suspicious. Nia kept the chain lock attached before opening the door slightly. The men immediately straightened. "Yes?" she asked carefully. Daniel offered a polite smile. "Miss Jackson, we apologize for arriving unannounced. We represent Mr. Leonard Whitmore." Nia blinked. "I don't know anyone named Leonard Whitmore." The 3 men exchanged quick glances. Then Daniel asked quietly, "Did you ride the downtown subway line last night around midnight?" Nia froze. Instantly, she remembered the old man. The silver subway token still sat on her kitchen table exactly where she had left it. "Yes," she said slowly. "Wait, the older man on the train." Daniel nodded. "That was Mr. Whitmore." Nia stared at them in confusion. "Okay, and..." The bald security guard suddenly stepped aside toward the hallway window. Outside below, parked beside the curb, sat 3 black luxury vehicles. Nia's eyes widened. "You've gotta be kidding me." Daniel continued politely. "Mr. Whitmore asked us to deliver a message personally." "A message?" "Yes, ma'am." Nia finally removed the chain lock and opened the door wider, though she still looked deeply suspicious. "Look," she said, "if this is some kind of prank." "It isn't," Daniel interrupted gently. He opened the leather folder and handed her a photograph. Nia's mouth slowly fell open. The old man from the subway stared back at her from the picture, but instead of soaked clothes and tired eyes, he stood in an expensive suit beside politicians and famous business leaders. Under the photo was a newspaper headline. "Leonard Whitmore, billionaire philanthropist donates $200 million to city hospitals." Nia looked up speechless. "That old man is a billionaire. One of the wealthiest men in the country," Daniel confirmed. Malik nearly dropped his cereal bowl. "No way." Nia stared again at the photo, unable to connect the humble man from the subway with the powerful figure standing beside mayors and CEOs. "He rides the subway?" she asked. "Sometimes," Daniel replied. "He believes it reminds him who people truly are." The apartment suddenly felt very small. Very quiet. Daniel carefully reached into the folder again and removed a sealed envelope. "Mr. Whitmore asked us to give you this personally." Nia accepted it cautiously. "What is it?" "A thank you for giving up a subway seat." Daniel smiled slightly. "Miss Jackson, yesterday, over 17 people saw an elderly man struggling to stand." He paused. "You were the only one who moved." Nia looked down at the envelope in her hands. For some reason, her heart started beating faster. And when she finally opened it, everything changed. Nia's fingers trembled slightly as she stared at the cream-colored envelope in her hands. The apartment had gone completely silent. Even Malik stopped eating cereal. The 3 men in suits waited patiently near the doorway while rain tapped softly against the windows outside. For a moment, Nia wondered if she was dreaming. Billionaires didn't come looking for girls from broken apartment buildings. Not girls like her. "Go ahead," Daniel said gently. Nia carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a folded letter written on thick expensive paper. And beneath it, a check. Nia's breath caught instantly. Her eyes widened. "Malik," she whispered weakly. "What?" he asked nervously. She turned the check around slowly. His jaw dropped open. The amount printed across the paper read, $50,000. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Nia honestly thought it had to be fake. "There's no way," she whispered. Her eyes darted back to the letter. Hands shaking, she unfolded it and began reading aloud quietly. "Dear Miss Jackson, last night, you offered kindness when nobody else did. Most people believe character is revealed during important moments. I disagree. True character reveals itself during small moments, when there is nothing to gain. You expected nothing in return for helping an old man on a crowded subway. That is precisely why you deserve something in return. Use this gift to build a better future for yourself and your family. The world needs more people like you. Leonard Whitmore." By the time she finished reading, tears filled her eyes. Malik looked stunned. "Nia, that's more money than Mom made in like 2 years." Nia slowly sat down at the kitchen table, still staring at the check like it might disappear. "This can't be real." "It is," Daniel assured her calmly. "The funds are already verified through Whitmore Holdings Bank." The bald security guard finally spoke for the first time. "Mr. Whitmore personally insisted we deliver it this morning." Nia laughed nervously in disbelief. "All because I gave up a subway seat." Daniel shook his head. "No, Miss Jackson. Because you showed compassion when compassion was inconvenient." That sentence hit her harder than she expected. Most days, kindness was inconvenient. Working overtime while studying for college. Helping Malik with homework after exhausting shifts. Taking care of their sick mother while pretending everything was fine. People praised kindness when it was easy. But life rarely made it easy. Nia looked around the apartment suddenly through different eyes, the peeling paint, the broken cabinet door, the water stains on the ceiling. For years, survival had been the only thing she focused on. Now suddenly, Hope stood inside her kitchen wearing black suits. "What am I supposed to even do with this?" she asked softly. Daniel smiled slightly. "That's entirely up to you." Malik nearly exploded with excitement. "We can fix Mom's treatments." Nia nodded immediately, tears finally slipping down her cheeks. Their mother had been delaying medical procedures for months because insurance wouldn't cover everything. Nia had secretly picked up extra shifts trying to save enough money, but it never felt like enough. Until now. Suddenly, another thought hit her. The subway token. Daniel's expression changed knowingly. "You still have it." Nia reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out the small silver token the old man had given her the night before. The security guard actually smiled. "That means he likes you." "What does the token mean?" Daniel hesitated carefully before answering. "Mr. Whitmore gives those tokens very rarely. Only to people he believes possess exceptional character." Nia stared down at the scratched silver coin in her palm. It suddenly felt far more valuable than before. Then Daniel reached into his folder one final time. "There's actually one more thing." Nia looked up. He handed her a business card. On it was written, "Whitmore Foundation Scholarship Program. Full University Sponsorship Candidate Invitation." Nia blinked repeatedly. I don't understand." Daniel smiled warmly. "Mr. Whitmore read your diner name tag last night. Afterward, he asked us to learn more about you." Nia's heart pounded. "You're currently studying nursing at Westbridge Community College with a 3.9 GPA while working full-time," Daniel continued. "Correct." Nia stared speechless. "We believe someone with your work ethic deserves an opportunity." Malik suddenly shouted loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Nia, you're gonna be rich." For the first time in years. Nia laughed so hard she cried. 3 months later, Nia Jackson stood in front of a crowd so large it made her knees shake. Bright lights filled the ballroom ceiling like stars. Expensive chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors, and waiters moved silently between tables where some of the city's most powerful people sat dressed in designer suits and sparkling gowns. Politicians, business executives, news reporters, people who normally would never notice someone like her. But tonight, every eye in the room was focused on Nia. She adjusted the sleeves of her navy blue dress nervously as Daniel Reeves stepped beside the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "before tonight's scholarship ceremony begins, Mr. Leonard Whitmore would like to recognize someone very special." Applause echoed softly through the ballroom. Near the front row, Leonard Whitmore sat quietly in his wheelchair, looking far healthier than the exhausted old man Nia had met on the subway months earlier. Yet his gentle eyes hadn't changed at all. When he noticed Nia looking at him, he smiled warmly. The same smile from the train. Daniel continued speaking. 3 months ago, Mr. Whitmore conducted one of his private character evaluations. The audience murmured curiously. Nia blinked in confusion. Character evaluations. Daniel explained. For years, Mr. Whitmore has occasionally traveled through the city anonymously, observing how strangers treat people they believe have nothing to offer them. A large screen behind the stage suddenly lit up with photographs. Images of subway stations, bus stops, street corners, ordinary moments. Most people walk away, Daniel said honestly. Some pretend not to see suffering at all. The room became very quiet. Then a new photo appeared on the screen. Nia's breath caught instantly. It was her, standing on the subway beside Leonard Whitmore after giving him her seat. Someone had secretly taken the picture. She had worked nearly 16 hours that day, Daniel continued. She was exhausted, financially struggling, and carrying responsibilities most adults twice her age would find overwhelming. Nia felt tears forming already. And despite all of that, she still chose kindness. The ballroom erupted into applause. Nia covered her mouth emotionally. Leonard slowly motioned for her to come forward. Heart pounding, she walked across the stage while hundreds of people stood clapping for her. Some even wiped away tears. When she finally reached him, Leonard took her hand gently. You changed more than your own future that night, he said softly into the microphone. Nia looked confused. Leonard smiled. After hearing your story, our foundation received over 11,000 volunteer applications in just 2 months. The audience gasped quietly. People began sharing stories online about small acts of kindness they once ignored, he continued. Subway workers reported passengers treating each other differently. Donations to local shelters increased. Nia stared at him speechlessly. One simple decision created a chain reaction. The room applauded again. Leonard's voice softened. You reminded people that humanity still exists. Nia wiped tears from her face carefully. I only gave up a seat. No, Leonard corrected gently. You gave something far more valuable. He paused. You gave dignity. Complete silence filled the ballroom. Then Leonard reached into his pocket slowly and removed another silver subway token. But this one looked different. It was polished brightly, engraved with words around the edges. He placed it carefully into her hand. What does this one mean? Nia whispered emotionally. Leonard smiled. It means the doors are open now. The audience looked confused, but Daniel suddenly stepped forward holding another folder. Inside was a letter confirming something Nia never imagined possible. A full transfer scholarship to one of the best medical universities in the country. Tuition, housing, books, everything covered. Nia's legs nearly gave out. You're serious, she whispered. Leonard nodded. The world needs nurses with your heart. At that moment, cameras flashed throughout the ballroom while reporters rushed to capture the story of the young woman whose kindness changed her life forever. But Nia barely noticed any of it. Because for the first time in years, she no longer felt trapped by survival. And as the crowd continued applauding around her, she realized something powerful. Sometimes the smallest moments become the ones that change everything.